All right, so I'm going to show you this again because it's tricky. Being able to do it like that took me a lot of time to learn. And so I'm going to try to share with you the technique that I found that works the very best at giving you the greatest chance of success in getting it in as few attempts as necessary. So what I like to start at the thin end. So you got a thick end with this big chunk of meat, and then you got the thin end over here. So this is the thick end, this is the thin end. It's more narrow, this is more thick. I like to start with the thick, narrow end. And what I do is I find this little thing, and I get just a little bit, so somewhere where I can grab. I tend to go over a bone too. It's like this is soft, this is soft, this is hard. This is the bone. So I'm gonna put the knife in, try to dig up. There's 2 layers of membrane here. That's the tricky part. You don't want to get the second one. You only want to get the first one. So right here we've only got the first membrane. Underneath, if we look, there's a second membrane. So we can actually go deeper than that. See how I've got the second membrane there? You don't want that. You only want this first membrane. So you're going to pull it up just a little bit, create you a little pocket. Right? Get you your dry paper towel. It has to be dry. This is very important. And if it gets wet, get a different one. It has to be dry. All right, so then, like I said, we pinch. We pinch that little pocket we just made, just like this. Pinch it and pull it. Now be gentle, go slow. So what we're doing here is we're pulling up. You see how we're making this bubble just expand? All right, well, I just tore it. Demonstration. And it doesn't always work. Even if you are perfect at this, even if you got your technique down, it does not always work. Sometimes it just doesn't. But this is the way that I have found that gives me the greatest chance of success of it working. So once you got a bigger pocket, what you're going to do is you're going to take a bigger surface area pinch, right? Try to get your thumb underneath there. And what I do is I put my hand here and I hold it, and here I will pull it gently. See, this one's going to take some work. See how it's ripped right there? So we're just pulling down the middle of the membrane. So we're going to try to go ahead and salvage this at this stage rather than pulling it all the way down. So what I'm doing is I'm going to pull it like this, pull this side up, and get it just unadhered to the side of the rib. So we're just going to poke our little finger through there. See how it's coming off? All right. Now we're going to put our fingers underneath here, pull back, get this back part off. Okay, now we're going to do that to the other side. Pull it up, get it unadhered from the side, pull back, get this back part off. All right, now we're going to proceed with all 3. Notice how our paper towel is pretty dry. Well, there's still a dry spot, so we're going to use it. Now we've got all the sections of the membrane ready to go. And you'll get really fast at this the more you do it. But in the beginning, just go slow until you get your technique down. So now that we've got all of the different parts, and I can basically grab them with all 4 of my fingers and the palm, now we're going to very gently pull them apart. So it's a 2-hand motion. I am pulling with this hand, and I am pushing gently with this hand. And you see these holes there? That's because there were holes in the membrane. And so now when it gets to this point, I wrap my finger around it like this, and then I just continue. All right. Grab, choke up on it, do another wrap. All right, see how, all right. And there's an optimum amount of pressure that you're going to apply that I cannot describe with my mouth, but you will know what it feels like when you do this. So now we're going to clean up the rest of it. That's how I have found to best remove the membrane, which is what I have also found to be the most important step in the prep process, besides using good rub. All right. This is the main pit on my rig. It's enormous. And what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to position the ribs in a way that they're going to cook optimally. The reason I want to use the middle rack is because I'm going to use wings, and I like the bottom rack for wings. All right. So we're going to go ahead and put them on here. So like I said, the flow in my pit comes from this way. All right, so there's the firebox down there. The reverse flow plate is under these shelves, and the smoke comes up from about a 1.5 foot section right there. So we're going to position these ribs with the thick side right here, away from the smoke coming up for one, and for two, towards the direction that the smoke comes from. That way we get the most even cooking that we can. We're going to give adequate space between the ribs to make sure that the smoke is able to get on all of the surfaces. And there we go. Now, when you're positioning them on the rack, if you stretch them out real bad or scrunch them up real good, they're going to cook like that. So my advice is to not bunch them up or smoosh them and not stretch them out real hard. I want you to do like a middle ground. There's a middle amount of pressure that you can apply to these ribs that is good. All right. So we will be spraying vinegar on them from time to time because that does have an effect. What the vinegar spritzing does is it puts fluid on there. And you can spritz with apple juice, vinegar, or water, pretty much anything you want. And as long as it's fluid, because what it does is it evaporates. And when the evaporative pressure on those ribs forces them to cool down. And when they're colder like that, more smoke is able to interact with them. When something is cold and wet, it will interact with smoke more because it sticks to it. So that's why spritzing in the middle of a cook, you only have to do it 1 or 2 times. It's not that big a deal. Also, length of time is dependent upon when they're done. This is something that there is no right answer for. There's a bunch of like 3, 2, 1 methods or whatever. I found that those are not helpful. They're not bad, but if you want really good ribs, you have to watch these ribs individually. And that is the difference between outstanding ribs and mediocre ribs. Is you have to know when they're done. And the way that you're going to do that is you can use like a popsicle stick or a toothpick or something in the end stages. That's post-wrap. But at this stage, they have to look a certain way. They have to be the right amount of dry. They have to contract a certain amount. The bones have to look a certain way. There's a lot of trial and error and experience that goes into describing exactly what they look like when they're ready to wrap. And we'll go over some of that. Okay, so the next step after the ribs have sufficiently cooked in the open smoke for as long as you want them to, now we're going to take them off. Now I've sprayed them with vinegar twice throughout this process. So let's take a look and see how they look. All right, so some things that we're looking for. Now they're very firm like this, but you see how they're dry a little bit? That's okay. We're going to moisten them right up. See how the bones are black like this? They're very firm, supple. Now when they get done, they're going to be a lot more fragile, but right here they're very supple and they're very, very, very firm right there. So the first thing that I do is I'm going to put brown sugar down on the bottom. This is a patented method. Alright, so then I place the ribs soft side, or the top side down. Now we're going to boat up the foil a little bit, like this. Now we're going to pour some vinegar on here. Not a whole great lot, but you want some underneath and some in the ribs. Okay. We're going to wrap them up like this. Now these bones are sharp and they will puncture this foil, so be very careful here. And that is the wrap. So you want your ribs to look like that whenever you go to wrap them. There's a lot of stuff going on there that I didn't explicitly talk about, but when they don't look like that, don't wrap them yet. And if they're overcooked, then you overcooked them. Wrap them anyway. But the thing is when you overcook them, they're either going to fall apart or they're not going to be as tender. One of the two. It's going to be really hard to get that final product where it's got the right pull, where it's got the right amount of adherence to the bone. It's either going to fall off or it's going to have a bunch of meat stuck to the bone. And we can show you a little bit of what that looks like. But that's the process. Not too much to it. Hello everybody. So let's unwrap the ribs. If we get in here close like this, I know it's a little bit darker now. And these are at the very edge of being overdone, which is where you want them to be. You can tell, but see the way that these are peeling back and these bones are white? That's what you want. And they don't just pull out either. Like I can tug on this and it will pull out if I pull it out, but it will still maintain structural integrity. That's the way you want it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to dump these off and I'm going to put them in the fridge. Tomorrow I'm going to go and glaze them up and finish them on the pit when I'm vending. That way they're fresh and ready to order. I probably will end up cutting them in half at least. That way they don't fall apart. But this is what you want them to look like. This is what's going to so if we come over here and we pull out this little bone. So watch this. Okay, we just pull this bone out, like here. That's what you want to see. See how it clings over here, but when you pull it off, it pulls off cleanly, and that bone is white. That's what you want to see. Now, absolutely. If it was not done properly, it would not pull off the bone like that. But we still had to pull it off, and that's where you want it to be. All right. Goodbye. Forgive the birds. We are outside, and there are birds, and they are on.